We are back with another episode of the Marketing Millennials podcast. Today, I normally don't have two guests, but I have two guests in the podcast, which makes it even more fun to have a podcast with two guests. So I'll let them introduce themselves. But excited to talk. We're going to talk all things TV. TV is exploding right now. Everybody's wondering how to do it right. Megan crushes TV, so we're gonna talk TV today. So I'll let you two introduce yourselves.
Yeah, I'll go first. My name's Megan Shea. I lead growth marketing at Bonafide Health, which is a women's health company that was really built to solve problems that women have been told to ignore for a very long time, specifically around menopause and women's sexual health. I think what really makes us different is that everything we do here is science-backed, clinically studied, and hormone-free. And from a growth perspective, like our job is to really translate that science into trust, and really meeting women where they are without talking down to them, but really educating them so that the brand feels credible and human. And I know this podcast is called Marketing Millennials, but for any aging millennials that are listening, perimenopause is knocking on our door. So go check us out.
I was actually listening to a Good Hang podcast with Amy Poehler, and Jennifer Lawrence was like scratching her ear, and she's like, just so you know, that's a sign of perimenopause. And it was like, I did not know that. I thought it was hilarious because I listened to that like 2 days ago, so it was hilarious.
Yeah, we don't have products that help with ear itch, but hot flashes and other things, we got you.
Cool. Yeah, well, I'm Romano Bottini. I am a senior client development manager here at Tatari. If you didn't catch the first part of the series yet, Tatari helps brands and agencies buy and measure ads on TV that feel a lot more like digital. So we work across all inventory sets, think streaming, linear, online video, whether that's something super highly targeted on CTV, like retargeting or lookalike modeling, all the way up to things as big as the Super Bowl on NBC. The big difference is that we don't just run the media. We try to measure it against real business outcomes with an incremental focus. So anything from CAC and ROAS to reach and frequency.
Amazing. So we're going to dive into TV today, but the first question I have is, so I know TV as an ad channel wasn't entirely new to you, Megan, but you changed how you used it. So what wasn't working for you in the early days with more sporadic TV tests, and what finally pushed you to rethink your approach to TV?
Yeah, so earlier on in our TV journey, we were working with a different agency, and honestly, the data was so fragmented. Reporting was delayed, which was a nightmare, and we weren't really able to see the way that TV impacted like our marketing efforts as a whole. So when we switched over to Tatari, that really gave us the transparency and ultimately like the trackability that we needed to prove it out. When I say prove it out, like we were a small company at the time. It's like talking to our CMO and talking to our CFO and really justifying that this deserves a place on the media plan, especially with linear. As I mentioned, like we're a menopause company, so our core demographic is really 55. So while everyone's kind of like talking about streaming and like on that boat right now, we're there too, but linear is still a huge, huge priority for us.
Yeah, Megan hit the nail on the head. Fragmentation is like a huge story in TV right now. Like she mentioned, everyone's talking about streaming taking over, which is true, but the reality is like linear still makes up half of viewership when it comes to TV today, and even more when you look at like ad-supported viewership. And so when you start to think about like the picture, right, you've got audiences across linear, streaming, you've got new publishers emerging and then other ones merging, and it gets really complicated fast. So if you're trying to measure TV in different silos, it can just be like really, really difficult to understand what's actually driving results. And that's ultimately why having a single partner that can kind of give you access to all that and measure it all head to head is that much more important.
What were you, just so people know, like what were you doing before as like, what did the process look like before to what is it now? Like, I know it was fragmented, but like how much of a struggle was it for you?
Oh, yeah. So I would say everything that we do when we were D2C only was very digital, and we're in the age of like instant gratification. So we wanted those numbers now. We're spending money. We want to see how it's doing for us. Before we were working with Tatari, we were on almost like a 2-week delay on getting that reporting. And we work with Rockerbox as our MTA, and it was a manual ingestion process. So not only was it a 2-week delay for us to get the data, it then took even longer to sort of get it into Rockerbox. When we switched over and we have like Tatari's Pixel on our site, everything is so seamless because they have that integration. So we're able to see with no delay, like what our CACs look like on pretty much a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, I know my wife is in D2C and she runs digital for a beauty brand, and she would be panicking if it took 3 to 4 weeks to get data. I would be panicking as a marketing ops, even in B2B, like nothing should take 2 weeks to get data. That's just something, especially as a marketer who's spending money, every dollar counts. But I know you initially came into TV with performance marketing mindset, but what did performance TV, and then I air quote that, mean to you at the start, and how has the definition of performance TV evolved over time?
Yeah. So when we first started in our early days, like CAC was king, right? If you wanted a spot on the roster, aka the media plan, like you had a number that you had to hit. So that's how we used to see it. And when we were talking about performance TV, that was a very clear call to action with an offer, driving the user to our website. Not only has our view on TV expanded, but we've expanded as a business. We're now omni-channel. We're on Amazon. We're in Target. So we have to understand the halo, really, that's happening. And it's not just about the CPA that Rockerbox or MMM is telling us that TV is driving. We're really looking how it's impacting other channels. So some of the things that we're looking at is like how CAC is shifting on other channels. What sort of increase are we seeing in brand or semi-branded search? Like, what does that movement look like? And ultimately, our mix shift, right? It's not all coming to D2C anymore. A lot of our purchases are coming on Amazon, and that's from the halo from TV. We've also really worked our way up the funnel. So like I mentioned in the beginning, our creative was very direct response focused, with a clear call to action and an offer. We've also slowly started building our way up into this rebrand where not only are we addressing, symptom relief with one of our products, but we need to connect in women's brains. Like when they think about menopause, they're thinking about Bonafide. So our creative strategy has shifted as well.
Yeah, I think I'll let Ramona add to that, but I do think that it's also harder when you digital does so much to increase all other channels, and digital doesn't get as much if you're running D2C and you're trying to grow every channel, because I know you can do targeted ads on Amazon, but then your halo effect of Amazon's going up and in stores. So I think that's also the benefit of TV, just adding on, is that you want people to think about when they're thinking about your product, when they're in store, when they're on Amazon, when they're on here, to just think about your name and the brand recognition. And also in the age of AI, where now people are searching best support for menopause, best products, you want your name to be searched on the internet a lot. So TV is a great way for that. But I asked Ramona to add on to this.
No, you guys both hit the nail on the head. I think this evolution, or this story, is something we hear a lot from scaling performance-driven brands, right? Like TV in the early days is purely a DR play. It's CAC and ROAS and whatever core metrics you care about, and that's it. But at least our philosophy is that TV's greatest strength historically has always been reach at scale, right? So there aren't many channels today where you can get 15 to 60 uninterrupted seconds of time to basically tell your brand story to millions of people without competing for someone's attention on Instagram feed or something like that. And so that type of brand building and impact, we see that kind of show up well beyond a standard in-platform CAC, right? So you've hit some of the key metric we've looked at. So things like higher click-through rates on social, larger retargeting pools, branded search lift, and then obviously impact to other sales channels as well. So I think Megan's team's doing a great job of trying to triangulate all that and understand what the impact of TV might be.
And I think, we hit on this a little bit, but a lot of times TV is also great for a strategy shift, because you did shift from just being digitally native product to being on Target. So how has I know you said at the beginning you really cared about CAC as king, but how does TV play a role when you deeply care about efficiency, but you also know that retail is a priority?
100%. So, I mean, some may argue that we did it backwards, right? We expanded our physical availability before we expanded our mental availability. So that is really what we're focused on this year, right? We're on Amazon, we're in Target, we're there. But if people are walking by the shelves and they don't know us, it's going to be a really hard sell in Target. So we're really, really focused on expanding that mental availability, and TV is there to help. I don't think that we're in the place right now. And if there's other smaller D2C brands that are looking to like dip their toe in, you're not going to go just from optimizing to CAC to buying on a reach and frequency scale, right? So although we are moving our way up the funnel into a more like awareness focused top of funnel channel, we are still looking at some of these core metrics like the impact on branded search and how it's playing with our other channels to still justify that spend, although it's like not completely direct response. But it becomes super important. And in many ways, TV has almost become like what I'll call a legitimizer. I mean, anybody can run ads on Meta. Like my neighbor is running ads for his painting business, like on Meta. But right, I feel like, especially for our demographic, a little bit of older women, maybe millennials and younger, a little more marketing savvy, but TV has definitely been a legitimizer and super helpful as like a tool in our toolkit for driving at retail.
Also, I mean, what's good is as a small test, like you're in this store in Target, you want to see if store sales go up in Target, but also are they lifting D2C sales in a region? So you can run like a test in a region to see if there's in-store purchases and D2C lift in D2C sales in, let's say, a market that you're trying to grow in, or you really know what you. That's some things I know a lot of people do with like a new channel of TV when they start doing regional buys.
Definitely. I think there's always a trade-off to that as well, though, right? That media gets a little bit more expensive. So the learnings are always important, but they do come at a cost. So you got to make sure that you're planning those tests accordingly throughout the year.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I think that sometimes you have to go wide for pricing, and you let the creative win. I think that's super smart. Ramona, what you want to add into this part?
No, I think that's all relevant. Yeah, like Megan hit on this too, but especially on the linear side, pricing can be pretty pricey when you start to think about like the operational and opportunity cost of running a test like that. I think CTV today is like very easy. It's the minimal when it comes to like actual operational gains from doing that. And like if that's a learning that a brand wants, we're always in the camp of like doing other things and bringing your own measurement to the camp to the brand so that we can triangulate TV and that impact it in many different ways. So I think streaming is definitely an easier sell on that front. But overall, like happy to do that for our brands.
And I know we talked about that. It's pretty expensive to do regional buys and stuff like that. But a lot of like mid-market brands, not like truly huge and like big DTC brands, like worry about like premium TV being out of reach. So like what convinced you to test like higher profile placements like Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, or even CNN's New Year's Eve?
Yeah, so I would say that we lean into these around key time. So Q5 when inventory is cheaper. I mean, who does not love a good bargain? I am a TJ Maxxinista at heart. I love designer for less. So when these opportunities pop up, I know one of the things we were talking with our reps about was sort of like these fire sales and fire deals. Making sure that we have a little bit of pocket of budget so that when we're planning our TV budget, we do have a little pocket that when these fire sales come up, we can really take advantage of them. So that's one, and just making sure that you're being smart in the time when you're buying them, and sort of aligning them with like tentpole moments. Q5 is one that's big for us because that leads right into Q1 when we're really leaning into wellness. But then also sort of like accepting the reality that this might not convert or hit the same way that our regular buys do. So it's not just working in a silo on the growth team. It's like tapping our counterparts. So the e-com team and the lifecycle team, and making sure that they're aligned with the buy, they know when it's airing, and they're ready to like capture that traffic and put them in the right flows and convert them downstream if needed.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I think like a lot of people don't set up the operations and the back end so they could do buys like this. Because if you haven't set up things in the back end to be, or have creative ready to go just in case a Q5 fire sale goes, and it's also perfect for a brand where people start thinking about things going into New Year, and they're thinking about wellness. They're thinking about what should I get. I'm worried now. I'm like, especially millennials, like we love like a New Year's wellness.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's good that
sure.
your team sets that up.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, just for a little context, like that stretch of Q5 is like super advantageous for brands just like Bonafide, right? That are like resolution focused, or just like health and wellness in general. And like the operational side of it, what happens is basically there's a giant inventory surplus, or it depends on the network and whatnot. But a lot of advertisers' campaigns will wrap up, like that Q4 kind of seasonal demand dries out. And so like in short, you can see inventory come at like a significant discount, right? So I think as an example, we had a few clients this year book things like college football playoff games at 50, 60% off the original asking price. And so if brands are, looking to kind of capitalize on that, they can use Q5 to, launch TV aggressively heading into Q1 and kind of build that reach quickly and create a lot of momentum heading into their peak seasonality.
Lucky this is like a niche podcast, so like people who are not a bunch of people are going to run to do Q5 ads this year. So like there's not a million. So that's a huge tip that I didn't know, that it's a fireside sale like for some of those premium spots in Q5. So I think that's so Megan, so if your price goes up, it's not my fault during that.
I let the cat out of the bag.
So I mean, you said you also said that TV works best during key moments like Q1 or like seasonal pushes or launches. So how do you actually change your strategy during those periods?
Yeah. So, I mean, as a wellness brand, like definitely a heavier investment in Q1 makes sense for us. I know a lot of brands, lean in Q4. That's when we tend to pull back a little bit. Like Q1 is really like our Super Bowl moment. And then that also gives us, we could take more risks in Q1 because then that gives us more time to claw it back throughout the year. We're also thinking about creative tweaks and seasonality. So, unfortunately, like, obviously for a clothing brand, right, they're going to talk about bathing suits in the summer and coats in the winter. Well, for us, women tend to just deal with their hot flashes in the winter when it's like, I don't know, in New York, 5 degrees outside right now. And it's a little bit colder, so they'll deal with them. But we really lean into hot flashes in the summer, when it's 90 degrees, and we know that those can be unbearable. So it's really switching out our creative and getting strategic in that way. We also have used TV, and, this was definitely a learning moment for us for new product launches. So at the end of 2024, we launched a hot flash innovation, but we didn't end up getting support with TV and like I would say overhead coverage for our media until the summertime, which I think was a miss because that's when it really like started to pick up. But I think we could have gained momentum if we would have had TV in market a lot sooner. And we have a new innovation coming in the first half of this year, and you better believe that we have TV like ready to go as soon as that product is launching. So that was a lesson learned for sure.
Yeah, I think people also forget that before you do something, you need to like have drum beats before your product launch. You need a little bit of, hey, we exist. Oh, here's our new launch. Like we exist. You don't need to like have super, but you need those little drum beats. And a lot of people put so much pressure on a launch that they do everything just on launch day. And then it kind of is just this serotonin going down because you just like lost, like it's either you win big or you lose big. But those drum beats help like get you prepared. Like even Black Friday, where having drum beats leading up to Black Friday is better than having just everything go when it's super expensive on Black Friday to pay to play.
100%. And I think that our product specific ads are those drum beats. So we talked about before, like really connecting menopause and Bonafide at the top of the funnel. I look at that as our always on. And then during the key times, like new product launch, you'll hear a product drum beat. Then over the summer, you're going to hear more about hot flashes. And then those are kind of like our pulsing moments, but we want to make sure that that brand message is sort of always just like, hey, don't forget about us. We're here.
Romano, what other brands? I know you work with health and wellness, but what other types of brands could like use this like strategy for like product launches, Q1, Q5? Like what are you seeing in the like TV space?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty agnostic. Like I think just because like your the peak seasonality of Q4 is like the demand might not be there as much. That doesn't necessarily mean you can't use it to your advantage. I think for other brands, like think apparel or I don't know, home goods, things like that. Like it's a really good time to eventually kind of understand your audience and TV a little bit more, right? So if you're seeing success with sports throughout the year and you're kind of just dipping your toe in the water there, you can basically go in there and say, all right, like we're going to take a big swing based off the data we have and understand if that's something we can drive forward, and if something we want to pay the bigger price for down the road next year. So I think it's just a good time for brands to kind of like set up their testing long term and better understand what these kind of more tentpole moments can do for them overall as a business.
I also think I think as like a growth marketer, I'd like to get your opinion on it, but I think you have to capitalize on moments where things are cost lower, where a lot of people wait and say, okay, I'll wait for my Q2 budget. I'll wait till my Q3 budget. It'll get cheaper in Q5 next year. And then they've missed out on serious like moments in the year where CAC is lower or fire sale happens. And I could have done this drumbeat or I could have spent. So like, how do you think about like capitalizing on moments where, like you could push CAC or like push a little bit more budget, and instead of waiting it out?
I feel like the thing I tell my team all the time is scared money don't make money. Like
Oh,
you
I
gotta
love
be,
it.
you gotta be willing to take risks and you gotta lean in. I will say if you're working for a smaller, scrappier company, that's a lot easier, right? As you start to evolve and get bigger, like, yeah, you have to work things up the chain. But as a culture in an organization, you need to be aligned on when to take risks and when to lean in. I think it's super, super important.
I think also, I mean, I'll go to another picture because we talked about a little bit how you had really bad tracking at the beginning. And I think still a lot of brands are stuck with like one way to track things, and one way to track things normally leads to saying Meta and Google are the best channels because it's like a walled garden, those channels, and they're if anybody knows, they're trying to make money and keep people on Meta and Google. So how is like your approach to like multiple measurement strategies gained your confidence of TV as a channel?
Yeah, so we use a triangulation approach. I think in our early days when we were just running on TV, I mentioned we used MTA and we use Rockerbox. That's easy when you're just running on search, Meta, and just a few channels. But as we've really expanded, we needed to expand our measurement portfolio as well. So we use MTA, that's sort of like at the top of our triangle. And then sort of at the bottom bases are platform data and our MMM. So those are the three numbers that we're triangulating against. As we've moved to omni-channel and we're working our way up the funnel in the channels that we're spending on, this year, like our approach is to turn that triangle, and we want MMM to really be at the top, and really just use MTA and platform as sort of like a gut check and more for like daily decisions, just because we don't get that MMM data as frequently. So that's really the three pieces that we're using. That has also really helped us gain confidence, I would say specifically with Tatari and TV, because those MMM numbers are much more aligned with the platform data that we're seeing. It also allows us to take into account for the halo effect and Amazon, right? Because if we're just looking at Amazon in a silo, that CAC could look amazing. Whereas when you're working with an MMM, you can model that in and it will take credit, from your meta spend, from your TV spend. That's really driving that growth on Amazon. So that's going to be key for us this year to rotate our triangle.
Yeah, that's a super good point, because I think that sometimes you are running channels and then the halo effect are affecting other channels, but then you stop it for like digitally because it's not working as well digitally, or it wasn't working better, but like Amazon's going up and retail's going up, and maybe digitally like CACs are a little higher, and you're not giving credit to like that these ads are working overtime for these other channels as well. So I think that's a super good point. Romano, what do you see as like, is this the best approach that you see people doing, or like what are some other ways to like measure TV effectively?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it. No measurement solution is perfect at the end of the day. If it would, I think, if we get that silver bullet, we would all be trillionaires. But the reality is, like, we always encourage brands to bring other measurement solutions as well as using ours. So I think Tatari's platform measurement is really great about understanding the intra-campaign decision-making, right? Like network versus network, creative versus creative, things like that. But there's obviously, more at play here, like Megan's called out. And so whether it's MMM, MTA, or Tatari platform, I think using a combination of those things and trying to understand how, fluctuations in TV spend and those types of changes can impact the overall business. And that ultimately just gives brands more confidence to continue leading our learnings for more of the day-to-day.
Also, like, plug for your team, we're giving them access to these platforms as well. So it's like our team at Tatari is plugged into, our Recast and our Rockerbox. They're not only like helping us make buying decisions based off of the data that they're seeing, but they're also putting themselves in our shoes in the world that we're living in and who we have to be accountable to, and using those to help make decisions as well.
Yeah, that's super important to have like a partner that's like has insight of what you are doing and not just spewing out like industry benchmarks and this is what other people are doing. So I think that's super important. I also want to, like, I know people have like this mindset that, and again, it's because they're like, we have this like mindset of instantly running ads on Meta and instantly running ads, but like, where was that moment when TV clearly proved that it was more than just like running an ad? What was that moment where it was actually driving the business forward?
Yeah, I think for us, there's a couple instances, but one that comes to mind for me is we really do mine a lot of our customer reviews. And as we're trying to prove TV out, we read a review that kind of talked about, okay, I saw this ad on Meta, and then I went to go talk to my doctor, like my OBGYN, about this product. And she confirmed it was great, but then I forgot about it. And then I saw the ad on TV, and then I bought it. So to me, that was like TV being a legitimizer, and also turned our thinking around that, it was always, okay, TV's brand awareness, TV's top of funnel, it's bringing new people in. But in that instance, TV was actually the closer. So it can work in different segments. So to me, that was pretty cool. So yeah, it's really not always just awareness. And also it's not just running ads. Like we've really seen the impact when we're looking at the halo, and Tatari has helped us measure that. Amazon's a big player in the space, right? Like subscriptions, I feel like are becoming, people are, especially in Q1, right? People want to save money. They're a little more subscription averse. Amazon's easy. They got those easy returns, and there's a huge, halo from TV to Amazon, and just being able to help, understand that and measure that to see the real impact, has been great for us. So it's not just running ads. You can actually see where it's driving.
Amazon just making it so much harder for people who just own digital, but it's still, but
it's
still,
a gift and a curse.
I know it's like a great channel, but also like if your sole responsibility is increasing digital sales and like D2C sales,
And LTV and owning that
yeah,
customer data, and then you're just giving it to Amazon.
yeah, it's a lovely channel, but also a hard channel to compete with because of shipping and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd add there is like we've seen more and more of that as brands roll out Amazon. Just from the consumer angle, it's hard to beat at the end of the day. And so, like more and more, the more and more you expand into Amazon and other retail channels like that, the more and more important it is to ensure that you're factoring that into all your channels, not just TV. But when you think about the journey for a customer on TV, right? Like someone sees your ad, searches you up on whatever their search engine might be. First thing that probably is going to pop up if you're advertising there is going to be their Amazon link. So something to be considerate of when you're launching TV and make sure that you're factoring it in.
Just thinking about too, like the creative, and just using that as a lever, right? Like you know that she's going to see the ad and probably still go to Amazon, but what type of offer can you put on TV? Like how can you sweeten the deal so that when she is comparing the two, she goes where you want her to go?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know because my wife owns digital, so they like there's like product specific. There's bundles that are like digitally native. There's this product is not on Amazon. You have to be like very smart in ways of packaging things to make it better than Amazon. So like that's super smart. Is like creative is the targeting, but the offer, like people don't test offer as much, and I think offer is like super important to like drive that next behavior because there we talked about like sometimes it's a great way to just keep people top of mind and like have that like be the closer on whatever channel. But if you want them to be a closer on the channel that you want to point them to, you might need to have a better offer for that channel. A couple more questions for you. I mean, I know that a lot of like mid-market brands who are feeling stuck that say like too big for tiny TV tests, but too small for like these big tentpole buys. What did you do to unlock TV as a repeatable growth channel?
Yeah, so I think for us, it was really, selling it in to, our CFO and at the top, at the top of the chain. One thing that I repeatedly kept on referencing was a study published by System One, really leaning into this thing called the doom loop, right? And I feel like if you're a D2C brand and you grow to 50, 75, 100 million, you're kind of like stuck in this sweet spot almost where you probably are running on the same channels as everybody else, maybe over optimizing and overspending in certain ones and kind of like afraid to take that next step. And it really does put you in that loop where if you're not growing awareness or like expanding that mental availability, you're going to get stuck and you're going to get crushed. And I really needed to kind of sell in not only brand awareness, but just working our way up the funnel with the media plan, not as awareness, but as a multiplier, right? This is a performance multiplier. And that's how I was thinking about it and selling it in. Because I think too, if you're working at a smaller company and you're a smaller brand and somebody hears TV, they might get a little scared. We're not ready for that. But that's not true. So I really had to sell that piece in, and it was just getting that first test and proving it out that really helped it for us. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the age old issue is like you got to hit a number right now, but I also have to hit a number in for like 9 months or a year or 2 years. And sometimes if you just stuck in like being so performance heavy and only on just like that the buyers right now, you are not educating the buyers who may have the problem, but they can't describe what the problem is. Like to say, like they're getting hot, like they're getting hot, but they don't know why they're getting hot. And then like they realize they have menopause, but they don't know like what to do for menopause. And then now they're like, okay, I know I need something to control this because it's unbearable. And now I know you're the solution. I think there's like so many like levels to like problems that people, and if you only at the end of the curve where like you're telling people that we're the solution to this one problem that you're having right now, not like something that is happening and I don't know why it's happening. You're losing out on those potential buyers that could buy 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years from now, which is super important to capture.
Especially if you're a supplement business like us. I know you said, I think you said your wife works in beauty. The amount of money that I drop on makeup without a thought is horrible. So hopefully my husband's not listening to this. But for a supplement and an ingestible and something that you're putting in your body, education is key. And just really that credibility and validity. TV definitely helps with that. So that education piece is key for us.
Especially millennials. I mean, we always want the like science back, like this is the best thing, the cleanest ingredients, like how's it gonna, and we needed like data to prove it. Or an influencer to tell us.
We need an influencer to tell us. I will tell you, right? I feel like science. We need an influencer to tell us because science backed is basically, honestly, table stakes now, right? And if you have one ingredient in your supplement that's clinically studied, you can label it as clinically studied. We clinically study our entire formulation, right? But at the end of the day, does the consumer care about that when she's like scrolling through her feed and only has 5 seconds? No, she wants an influencer to tell her.
I use this for my menopause, basically. Like, or I'm perimenopause, and this is helping me. Or science backed is table stake, especially in that industry, and even in like beauty, and a lot of like people want to know that it has clean ingredients, it has this, it has that. Like, if you're trying to win a certain type of buyer,
I think too, just as we're talking about influencers, there's one point that I didn't hit on really around creative. One thing that we're leaning into this year is that if we know something is working on social, right? Like people want to hear from influencers, women want to hear from other women. Don't overthink TV creative. It doesn't have to be this, $100,000 of, cost going into it. We can really lean into some of this more UGC and like lo-fi creative and throw it up on TV and get a test and a learn really quick. So I would say keep it simple and really don't overthink the creative too much.
Yeah, and to add to that, like I think that's one of the biggest levers creative in general is like one of the biggest levers we've seen that can make TV work a little bit harder for your business and drive stronger response. And so I don't think necessarily like Megan called out was like the quality of production that's like Super Bowl level that's important. It's really more the commitment to a creative iteration. So figuring out what works, testing, learning, and then iterating on whatever's resonating is like the really important part. And so just essentially not treating creative as like a one and done asset because that ultimately can drive a lot of business that we've worked with to see performance levels go to new heights.
Yeah, I think, the messaging is as important as like the creative. And if you're like, it doesn't matter what level of creative, the messaging is telling someone that we solving your problem and it hits on their problem and it's at the right time that they want to, or they're thinking about it. It's gonna resonate. And especially like now where people now think like half the ads are going to be AI during the Super Bowl. Lo-fi might actually be working in this age of AI.
Are you guys taking bets on that one?
No, I know there is one ad that is supposed to be like they flaunting that it's AI only, like they only made this ad with AI. But I wonder how many TV ads are going to be AI only in the Super Bowl this year.
I see more and more. I would be surprised if it wasn't at least one or two.
Yeah. Lastly, I'd like to ask everybody in this podcast is what is a marketing hill you would die on?
Oh my God, do you want to go first, Romano? I think. I mean, is yours going to be TV?
Mine's going to be TV related, but like I'll die on this hill that I think TV, like some brands are more ready for TV than they think, right? I think brands either kind of like we've called out already, either think they need to swing for the fences and TV is a really expensive channel, which is going to cost them millions of dollars to get into. And I just don't think that's the reality today. Obviously, like there's a time and a place for those things if you line it with your business. But there's an easier, like lower hanging fruit to start, right? We've had brands start with, a few $1,000s, just starting with retargeting. We've had brands that do, proper linear tests with 50 to 100K a month. And so I just think the reality is that if you're a business that's starting to see diminishing returns on social channels or kind of your core performance segments, like I think there's reason to at least give TV a shot, because it's not going to, I don't think it'll eat into your budget as big as some people think it might. So that's something that I'm always a big proponent of.
I would say Marketing Hill I would die on is continuing, and maybe this is just coming from like a small D2C, like are my grassroots, but moving fast, right? Not being afraid to fail and taking risks. I'm a risk taker by nature, but really leaning in when a cultural moment hits. I feel like there's the type of person who's kind of going to go and really ask everyone, is this a good idea? Is this a good idea? Like, we're all marketers and we have that gut instinct. If you know something's going to hit, like, don't be afraid to advocate for yourself and continuing to lean in, because it's the brands that are taking the risks, are being a part of the cultural moments, and are sort of doing these things that you're maybe not going to see that immediate return on ROI, but really they're getting talked about, and those are the ones that are going to be here in the long game. And if we just continue chipping away and playing by the rules, like you're really not going to make a splash. And you look at Grunes, you look at all these other brands, they're making a splash right now. They're moving really fast.
I also think it goes to what you said earlier, is like your motto is scared money don't make no money. And like you have to be able to push at the right time and take that risky push, even if it could fail, because like culture moments die off. CACs get higher. They're always going to get higher. That's how these platforms make their money. But if you're good at pushing when you need to push, or you found a good creative that works, you don't just take your foot off the pedal because of next month or next year, or you just go and push and see what works. So I agree. Any closing thoughts from you both, like on where can people find you as well?
LinkedIn, just Megan Shea. Yeah, reach out on LinkedIn if you have any questions. I love chatting in the New York area, so I try to pop into the city at least like a couple times a quarter for meetups, but I live in the suburbs now. But if you ever want to chat, definitely reach out.
Same here at LinkedIn, Romano Bottini, or visit Tatari.tv, and I'll be sure to reach out. But yeah, always around at some of the trades, conferences and whatnot. So if you see me around, feel free to grab me and talk my ear off.
Thank you both for joining. And yeah, I think it's TV is having its moment. It's so hard to understand what's working, what's not working, who's doing it right, who's doing it wrong, if you should do it, if you should not. So it's like, and what should you have in place to make sure it works? So I think this was a good conversation to understand how Megan's doing it to make it work for her brand. So thank you so much for everybody for listening, and thank you to both for joining.
Thanks, Daniel.